Good morning to you. You're listening to Flow FM 92.7. It's 8 o'clock, and welcome to the Headline News Review. I am Adeyemi.
And I'm Danielle Shitta-Bey. Thank you for joining us.
And today, 8th of January 2025, let's take a look at some of those trending national stories, and then we'll analyze some of these stories and give you a chance to join the conversation as well. Nicholas Nwarunoye joins us live in the studio this morning to take a look at some of these big headlines. And then you can also give us a call to drop your comment, your contribution on 0807 777 9927. Let's state first that the views expressed on the program is not in any way the position of Flow FM 92.7 or any of the staff therein, as solely expressed by the analysts and responders this morning. Let's get right into our stories. Also, let's state to you that we're streaming live.
Yeah, we're streaming live on Facebook at Flow FM NG and on YouTube at Flow FM 927. You can get on any of these apps and get in on the live action happening in the studio right now. Now, moving into the conversation we have this morning, this is the story on the task force meets as police and Motekun tighten southwest boundaries. There's an influx of bandits into Oyo State, and security agencies across the southwest have ramped up measures to tackle the security threat. This story is coming from The Punch, and Oyo State security chiefs convened an emergency meeting to devise new strategies.
Well, first and foremost, good morning, our listeners out there. For me, the first thing that came to my mind when I was looking at that report this morning was to go back to what we've been talking about, the state police thing. That what it simply says is that there is no time to waste. Because what you are looking at is, there is going to be, with the military activities in the north, where they are concentrated, the bandits are concentrated. There is always that tendency that they are going to move south. And, we've consistently said that there are a lot of ungoverned spaces, especially in the north. Why the north, appears to be a bit okay, let me just put it that way, is because it's an open veld. It's an open flat land. But in the case of the rainforest savanna area, you have a more, you have places where they can hide. They can hide under vegetation and things like that. And there is a forestry belt, I think all the way from Sokoto, down towards Shaki, and so there's a forestry belt that runs down south. That I think it's a national reserve kind of, and it spills into Benin Republic. So there are lots of places where you can keep a bandit camp, where a bandit camp can exist several years without anybody knowing. They come into settlements, local settlements, and do a lot of mayhem and disappear into the forestry, kidnap people from the highway, take them into the forest, and you're unable, to find them. You see, in fact, even when you deploy drone services and things like that, because of the forestry that you have, it might be difficult for them, for the drone that doesn't have, what you call thermal imaging, to really see the number of people that are there. So you have to deploy a more sophisticated, surveillance, drone, to be able to know where there is a cluster of humans, So for me, it's either you have that or you put boots on the ground, And what we have in terms of, personnel in the military, the police, and the other paramilitary, is still, it is not significant, because ordinarily, according to the United Nations, I think it's for every 40 citizens, you must have one police. Yeah, I'm not too sure, but it's within that range. But at some point, though there has been a lot of recruitment in the police service, we have about at some point it was about one policeman to 300 Nigerians. So it's you can see the gap that we have. So that is why. When I saw that report, of course, especially, bringing in the Amotekun into the mix, tells you of the desperation we are looking at. And, you see, Amotekun can only do so much because, there is a limitation to which they can be armed. There's a limitation to which they can have access to the kind of infrastructure, security infrastructure allowed for the police, allowed for NSCDC, allowed for the army. So, to a very large extent, I think that it's a wake-up call on that police thing, and federal government needs to do something if we are to contain that situation.
Well, your state shares a lot of boundaries
With Kwara State, yeah.
with so many states.
Exactly.
You have Lagos, you have Kwara, and then it's more or less like the inroad to so many other southwestern states. So with this, information and this development, how prepared should other, southwestern states should be? How prepared should they be? And again, what's going to be the synergy between, the Amotekun of the west, of the southwest?
First and foremost, I think Kwara State has to be at alert. And even it raises the question, to Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak initial promise of working, trying to see how it can create forest rangers. I think he said that in his first term. You understand? I have been looking forward to seeing that kind of thing, but I haven't seen much. But there has been a lot of, work with vigilantes. I see a lot of vigilante deployments in areas, but for me, it's not enough. I see a lot of, in collaboration with the state government, especially in the area of community policing. But for me, that is still not enough. You understand? But somehow, Kwara State has been unique in its, security architecture. Being able to manage, I don't know how they manage it, but you see, Kwara State has this very unique way of doing its things that sometimes I wonder how they do it. Because considering, what is happening in Niger State, in the neighboring state, you expect that there will be a massive spillover into the state. But somehow, the state has been able to manage it, to contain it to a very large extent in such a manner where what you just have is largely pockets of insurgency, banditry, kidnap, and the rest of them. So for, in the case of what is happening, for there to be that kind of, a deployment, that kind of security meeting in Oyo State, for me, I think it's what we are dealing with is something different. And I think that Kwara State should, as a matter of fact, stand up and see what it can do, especially in the area of perhaps, reconstructing this forest rangers thing, because we have a lot of forestry down south, bordering Oyo State. Then, of course, with the Amotekun, there might be a bit of problem there, especially if it has to relate with any border town that are within Kwara State and other, states that are up north that don't have Amotekun. So there might be a bit of restriction. So if there is a need to pursue, suspects, for instance, there is a boundary they can't cross into. You understand? So, so those are some of the things that I think might be a bit challenging, because like we said, some of this banditry insurgency things are asymmetric. It's not your usual kind of crime fighting. It is not your usual kind of crime fighting. And you might then start asking yourself, all of a sudden, when you look at the cases of armed robber, all of a sudden, armed robbery has disappeared. So that tells you that maybe, this might just be an avenue they have. They have this banditry thing has kind of incorporated them, giving them a new lease of, unleashing terror on people. So there is a lot of mix in the whole situation. And I think that we should go back to that thing we were talking about, that state police thing. Federal government and state government must really take that matter serious. And before the first quarter, we should have a decisive, something decisive happening in that area.
Let's also consider having so much, forest down south. No doubt about that.
No doubt.
How quickly should the federal government, bring back? I think there was a time we had the forest guards.
Yeah, forest. The forest guards were just, they were just like forest reserve people. They are not a full-fledged force, kind of, just to protect wildlife and things like that. But I do know that when President Bola Tinubu came on board, he did make that promise of creating forest rangers. And I think something has been done to that effect, but to the extent to which they have been equipped, to the extent to which they can function, is something I'm a bit at a loss to, because I expect something to be, I expect it to be very massive.
Shouldn't we have learned from the Sambisa forest during Boko Haram to look into, this forest protection and, a lot of surveillance around the forest?
Yeah, honestly, you see, and that is one of the unfortunate things about us here, the way governance is done. kind of get these feelings that they don't, no matter how terrible things are, they don't learn from it. You understand? And usually when you have instances where there is an overt, covert, movement into trying to curb a situation, it's usually when people at the top are affected. I'll give you a very good example. Look at, we're talking about the pandemics things, because it doesn't discriminate. And in most instances, you see that very powerful people are more affected because they fall within the range of people who fly, who meet with foreign people, who bring in those viruses. You understand? So that is where you see massive deployment of, government resources to curb a certain problem. But you see, because these insurgencies affect the ordinary subsistence farmers, the ordinary people who travel on the road, they travel by air. So sometimes you see a slow movement. That is my reading of the situation. So, until, we started having a situation where senators, commissioners are being kidnapped for ransom, we didn't see a massive, response, from government. But now they are beginning to move. But the thing is still slow. It's just like you said about Sambisa. Imagine if Sambisa were to be some kind of GRA. You understand? The kind of response that you'll be getting will be quite different from what we are seeing right now. So, and that has always been the tragedy of Nigeria. And you see, a long time ago, a very senior retired, security officer once told me that, you see, the problem with the Nigerian security architecture is that it is a program towards regime protection. You understand? It is about protecting the person in power, not really a people-oriented security. You understand? And that was what this guy I mentioned here once, Ogbuaja, Alozie Ogbuaja, the former PPRO of the police, said under former military president Babangida that the military deliberately underfunded and destroyed the Nigerian police force so that it can carry out coup. You understand? He once said that it was for that he was he was unceremoniously removed from the force and things like that, and he was socially sequestered. So that has always been the problem we have our security architecture. It's always about protecting the person in power, protecting the regime, not necessarily about protecting the Nigerian, regardless of your status in life. That is the impression you get.
Going off the back of that, the Ghana inauguration of President John Mahama, President Tinubu said Africa will lift itself out of poverty.
Okay.
How are they able to do that when it is centered on, what you just said about, it be the security thing being centered around the people in power and not even about the people. So how do you expect us to leave ourselves out of poverty when we're thinking about securing our own selves?
Exactly. See, because, when I saw that statement and I read the entire thing, it was empty. Okay, let us even look at both countries. There was an election that you conducted in your country that was hugely controversial. Up to the point that a lot of international bodies condemned your party, condemned the electionary process. But INEC was speaking from both sides of the mouth, speaking incoherently. Then you now have a Ghana that had a rancor-free election. You are going there to tell them what message are you sending? You look at the person who is giving you a message and see whether it's just like this saying. Let me loosely translate it: he who promises you a cloth, promise to clothe you. You look at what he's wearing. You understand? You are coming there on a tainted mandate, to tell Ghanaians that this is so that there is basis for optimism. When there is a general consensus that what we need is democracy, free speech, and all those things that allows for development to happen. But at the indices in your own country is nosediving. You understand? So on what basis are you inspiring confidence? You understand? So you see, these are some of the things. It's a lip service. That is the problem of the average African leader. We are so good at making lip service. You understand? But in terms of really putting action towards, it's something else entirely.
I don't think the president is speaking from the angle of, the situations rocking. Some parts of Niger, Chad, and those blocks who are trying to move away, from ECOWAS. Also, on the basis that African leaders should come together to develop and invest heavily in Africa.
Well,
shouldn't that be the basis?
You see, the thing is this: how do you inspire confidence with one of those markers that showed you haven't been able to manage the region very well? You know, the split happened under his watch as the ECOWAS leader. You understand? And Nigeria is considered a big brother. You understand? We are talking of something that happened when people like Gowon was there. They managed it all throughout. Then it came to your turn, Then all of a sudden, about 3 members of the family decided to split. You understand? So this
is a country we're talking about. We also should consider the sovereignty of a country.
Of course.
The fact that you belong to a regional body doesn't necessarily mean...
No. You see what I'm saying?
We have examples in Europe. Look at Brexit, for example.
Okay. Fantastic example.
Look at Brexit.
Brexit happened on the basis of a referendum. You know, so what happened in Niger, what happened in Mali, what happened in Burkina Faso were coup d'etat. Things that were already outlawed by the ECOWAS and the Committee of Nations. Don't forget that something similar almost happened in Gambia when President Muhammadu Buhari was there. How did Buhari respond and how did the world respond?
Yahya Jammeh?
Yahya Jammeh. Yahya Jammeh wanted to stay back after being defeated. But Buhari gave him, he said under 48 hours. And nobody told him to skedaddle. He moved out of the place because he knew the man had the entire backing of ECOWAS and Africa. You understand? So you see, that is a good example. We have a very good example of Muhammadu Buhari. You understand? So compared to him, how has he managed it? So is the basis of raising optimism that we are saying. You came and raised optimism. On what basis? What is the criteria? What are the credentials you are bringing forward? That is what we are saying. See, what I'm saying invariably is that it's not wrong to be optimistic. But you see, our leaders should learn to say things that are very realistic. Be very, very upfront about the challenges that Africa is facing. Not just to go and try to sell ice to Eskimo,
All right. Well, let's move away from that and onto this conversation about northern farmers. They're opting for export, like to export food items out of the country rather than within local based, and they are neglecting local demand. And the dry season is approaching because they want foreign funds instead of
You see, let me add to that. You see, what they are saying is not new; it's already happening. So what they are probably saying is that you are going to see more of that happening. That is it. On this platform, I did say once that our grains on regular basis, on trailer loads, move out of the country to this North African CFA denominated, currencies. You understand? If you look at CFA is, in terms of compared to Naira, is higher. So you get your yes.
It used to be lesser than Naira.
In fact, I think it's about, if not 3 or 4 times more than Naira. I don't know the current figure right now. It's been there for a long while.
That is quite sad because a few years ago, Naira was a lot higher than CFA.
No. You see. Let me even tell you, as far back as 2017, on Gwarimpa Bridge. You understand? I saw some second-hand shoes, on that place, and one of them I took a liking to it. I just, out of, just market survey kind of thing, I asked, and they said, well, that is so, it was so expensive. You understand? I said, okay, let me go to a boutique then. You understand? He now said, okay, go to a boutique. So I then asked him why the thing was so expensive. He said it's because of CFA. You understand? That he said, if I have a CFA now, of so amount, that he would take it from me. So that's to tell you. So you see, when they sell their grains, when they sell it out, to Niger, Chad, and get the franc CFA, they get the CFA.
Benefits them more.
It benefits them more. When they convert it to Naira, they have higher spending power. So this is about business. Don't forget that there was a law that was recently introduced in the National Assembly also trying to ban the sale of maize, corn, outside the country, exporting of maize. There was that attempt that was made that raised a bit of an uproar on the social media. So what they are saying is not what is going to start happening. What it's been happening. Maybe what the farmers are trying to tell you is that they are going to rev up on it.
And so the fact that things are already very expensive in the market, and doing this is going to make it skyrocket even more.
Definitely, yeah.
And their counterparts, that's people in Jigawa, Kano, and Yobe, they have more because of the dry season. There's not a lot of harvest. The harvest isn't so bumper for them and all of that. The fact that there's dry season and now they want to export, what can Nigerians expect?
Well, like they said, the projections
prices of things.
Yeah. You see, you are going to see more inflation. Don't forget, we have always said, and I think it was mentioned in that report, that headline inflation, a major contributor to it is, prices of food. The moment you have, the price of food, skyrocketing, it is going to reflect on every other thing. You understand? So you can expect that to happen. You understand? And and these are the food hubs. Jigawa, all those places. These are the food hubs because they have large expanse of land. Easily cultivatable compared to what we have in the south, where you have to destroy a lot of forest before you can do that. And of course, the rural urban migration is hugely depleting the workforce on the farms. You understand? So they are still largely farmers. You understand? And their government, the state governors in the north are more sensitive, to giving them farm incentives. So more of them going to farm. You see young men leaving schools and going to farms, but you don't have it down here.
I understand business that you spoke about earlier, but as Nigerians, shouldn't we be more concerned about our own people and the economic power of Nigerians rather than, I get it's business. I get that, when they exchange food like this and then they get these foreign currencies and they change it back to Naira, it benefits them. But as Nigerians, should we be more concerned about ourselves? And is there anything the government can do about situations like this?
I don't understand. Are you asking them to run charity? No, you can't expect them.
What my colleague is asking is, what intervention can government do at this
point? Exactly. Again, it's a policy issue.
The association, I think there's
definitely an association of farmers.
So it's more or less like, on what grounds, what is the basis that they are not selling to the Nigerian people?
Okay.
And then it's more like, okay, we want to sell outside the country, make more money. So what intervention can government do? How can government quickly come in and intervene?
Very good. You see, government must subsidize social infrastructure, social services. How much do you pay how much do you pay for consultation, for instance? The average is 10,000 naira. How many Nigerians can afford it? That is the average. That's the benchline that you can pay for. That is from your pocket, out of pocket payment for health services. The least you can pay is 10,000 naira. How many Nigerians are captured in security, the health insurance? That is on the one hand. Then you now talk of quality education, please. You understand? You have a child in the polytechnic, in the university. How much do you pay? So these are some of the things that drives the need to have more money. So you see, it's a natural thing. It's not, So how government can come in is that, you see, all those things that makes life difficult for Nigerians, if they are kind of ameliorated, pressure to look for more money will come down. That is the thing. You see, we've been talking about the issue of fuel subsidy and the rest of them. We've been talking about it for a while, and the spiraling effect it has. It reels into virtually most sectors of life, economic life in Nigeria. So when you have that happening, and the farmer thinks this is the only way he can counter the debilitating effect of high cost of living, are you going to tell him not to exploit it? So let's see how government can help us, create more choices in fuel pump price, for instance. The refineries we are talking about. And of course, in the area of power, in the area of, you see a lot of government intervention in all these places. It's a natural thing. Those things will come down.
All right, let's quickly, before we round off this morning, let's take a bit into this. And some prominent politicians in the country, including the former governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, and former presidential candidates, Major Hamza Al-Mustafa, met with the leadership of the Social Democratic Party, PDP, in Abuja to strategize ahead of the 2027 general elections. Well, can we say first, is it too early to begin the road to 2027. That's
We
on
just
the
started
side.
2025.
That's on the side. That's on the side.
Isn't the concentration should be on improving the economy and this food issue that we're talking about rather
The
than
food security.
food
issue.
security? Yeah,
That's on one side. Secondly, again, this is coming days after Malam Nasr El Rufai, debunked, that news that
yeah.
probably he's dumping the All Progressives Congress for the opposition party, not mentioning any opposition. But again, just so you add to all of this conversation, with all of this, is obviously looking like this is inroads into forming a coalition.
Yeah.
And how strong do you think this, opposition can come together to take power from the ruling party?
First, the first observation are saying it's too early. You see, the moment an election ends, another election cycle begins almost immediately. You understand? That is the thing about politicians. You see, let us get certain things clear. You see, the average Nigerian politician does not face the kind of hassles you and I face every day to put food on the table. You understand? You see, what they do is transactional politics. It's about money politics. That is, let me just, as mundane as I can put it. You understand? So it's like a business for them. So I know I have to be here. I know I have to do some chores to put food on my table. So for them, it's like that. So it is not too early to start politicking as far as 2027 is concerned. That is on the one hand. Then if you notice the political movement these days, it is no longer about partisan. More or less, you see a blood more, that is, the party lines are getting blurrer and blurrer by the day. It's not like all those times when this and that is strictly rigid. So you see a lot of commingling happening among all these political players. So that is what you are seeing, and you are going to see more of it in 2027 because it's becoming definite that all those party lines can no longer restrict them if they need to form a coalition. You have a situation where you have somebody in APC working for PDP in 2027. You are going to see it, and they are not going to. After all, you have a wiki that is a PDP chieftain working for this, and even saying that he's going to work for his re-election. So definitely you are going to have more of that. You're going to see them. It's going to happen. You understand? So that is what you are saying with El Rufai and the rest of them. They are just talking about how they can have a kind of synergy, work within a kind of synergy without appearing to be doing anti-party. That is what you are looking at.
And the third part of it is, do you think with all of this and then considering the popularity of the ruling party and then looking at if you look at the opposition party, hardly can you count 5 strong opposition parties in Nigeria. Let's take for example the last election in Edo State and that of Edo State and that of Kogi State. You see some of these opposition parties collapsing 24 hours, 48 hours to the election to give their support or their votes to a particular to the 2 most popular parties, the PDP or the APC. My question is, quickly, these other opposition parties that we have across the country, how strong do you think they can be to form a coalition to wrestle power from the ruling party? I'm coming from the angle of how the APC formation came about. Okay.
Yeah. You see, the formation of APC tells you that a coalition can happen to unseat a sitting president or a ruling party. It can happen. That is definite. But you see, again, being a political, being in power, confers enormous advantage on you. You understand? If you listen to Dalong recently said that the people that you have in APC right now around the presidency are some of the most formidable political players. They understand how to use power. You understand? So what we are saying is that, yes, a coalition might form, but these guys understand how to undermine those kind of a thing. So let us just wait and see how it happens, because like I always said, politics, especially a la Nigeria, is usually unpredictable.
Nicholas, thank you so very much for your time this morning.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming around.
Okay.
And that's the size of the program for this morning. We're sure to return to your ears tomorrow again, same time, 8 to 8:30. My name is Adeyemi.
I'm Danielle Shitta-Bey. Thank you for joining us.
And let's just quickly take this opportunity to announce a new program that's birthing on Flow FM 92.7. Have your say.
Have your say.
There are lots of complaints Nigerians have about situations or the affairs of the country. You have the platform to freely express how you feel about the situations in the country. Watch out for that and look out for the program on Flow FM 92.7. Thank you for listening for this morning. The full breakfast show continues in just a moment.
Here to light up the sea.